left the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, September 13th, 2018. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. So let's just get right on into it. Obviously, Hurricane Florence is the top story right now. It's moving toward the coast of North and South Carolina. Now, the good news is it has weakened to a Category 2. And a lot of people were very concerned. Earlier in the week, they had predicted it might strengthen to a Cat 5 by the time it hit landfall. It's down to a Category 2. But it's actually spreading in size, so the area of rain and wind is going to be a lot larger, even if it is a lot weaker. So it's still a very serious problem. They're saying this is probably going to be the most expensive hurricane disaster in U.S. history. They're already equating it to Katrina. And apparently the nuclear plants that are in the path of the storm are being shut down, even though supposedly they can withstand a Category 4 hurricane. Just out of an abundance of caution, they're shutting them all down. They're putting the control rods into the piles and just basically cooling them down to deal with that. And this means there are going to be electricity shortages over and above those caused by wind-blown debris taking down the power lines. They're estimating 3 million people in the area will lose their electricity, and they're talking about weeks. So hopefully people are prepped. They've got generators. They've got things to basically live off the grid, because you're going to be off the grid for a while. This is where you're going to identify the preppers and the non-preppers. And it will be a life-changing event for a lot of these people in the Carolinas here. Concerns are that the storm surge could cause flooding in the coastal rivers up to 22 feet high. And that is going to be very, very, very serious. Even worse, the storm is now slowing down, which means it's going to kind of linger over that coastal area. And there's going to be a prolonged period of these very, very dangerous conditions here. So hope the best for all these people. Now, every time they talk about Katrina, one remembers the very poor performance that FEMA had getting on in there and getting help to those people. And everyone's wondering, will it be the same right now? The concern is FEMA may not have adequate funds to deal with this hurricane, because according to Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon, the Trump administration transferred $10 million from FEMA earlier this year to fund the immigration detention and deportation efforts. Now, FEMA is denying that this happened, saying that the funds were not diverted. So hopefully they're going to have the resources that they need, and they'll act a little bit more expeditiously than they did during Hurricane Katrina. Meanwhile, over in the Western Pacific, Typhoon Mangkhut is it's hitting Guam right now. threatening Hong Kong, Philippines, and Taiwan. It's as large a storm system as Hurricane Florence. Meanwhile, here in Hawaii, Olivia kind of blew itself out. It passed over us last night. We got a lot of rain. We're still under a flash flood warning until noon today, but the storm has blown out west of us, and so we're all doing fine. I had some friends on Kauai were inconvenienced by it, but nothing like what those poor people in the Carolinas are dealing with. Okay, so let's turn to the war zones because there's a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of saber rattling here. Over at the United Nations, Miss Nikki, fresh from her crystal ball, is now threatening the U.S. will strike Russia and Syria over any attack on Syria's Idlib. And she's out there saying that any attack on Idlib is going to be dealt with. So the U.S. is just desperate to stop the Russian-backed Syrian army from retaking the last remaining jihadi stronghold. Because once they do that, the war is over, and the U.S. has no legitimate reason to be there. So Haley is out there saying, don't test us. Now, of course, they're trying to couch it saying that they want to avoid a humanitarian disaster. Russia is saying that artificially prolonging the conflict in Syria by saving the terrorists in Idlib would actually increase the humanitarian disaster. And they're absolutely right. One big push and it's over. Syria can go back to rebuilding itself. If the U.S. succeeds in protecting ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Idlib, the fighting will go on. The humanitarian suffering will go on. They're absolutely correct about that. And again, a lot of people are just looking at the irony. Where back when 9/11 happened, 17 years ago, it was blamed on Al-Qaeda. And for years after that, anything bad that happened in the world, oh yes, it's Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda did it. And now we have this spectacle of the United States government working to protect Al-Qaeda in Idlib. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. We're still hearing all this talk about a false flag terror attack. The Russian Ministry of Defense is saying that the terrorists have used or will use chemical weapons against children in Syria to get that emotional shock value going. And again, that's a good reason to suspect the official story. Because if Assad were actually going to use banned chemical weapons, which he's not supposed to have, why use them on children? Why not use them on the terrorists? And have you noticed during all the previous two so-called Assad chemical attacks, it was always civilians, never the enemy, never the terrorists. Now, Russia today is claiming that the U.S.-backed terrorists have completed their big production, this video of a faked Syrian chemical attack, and it's already on its way to the United Nations and to the corporate media. I expect that the U.S. corporate media is going to wait until Hurricane Florence is over and done with so they don't have any distractions. Right now, Florence is the top story. They don't want to compete with that. They want a clear media field, as it were, before they uncork this latest bit of propaganda and deception. Pardon me. Meanwhile, the Syrian army is hitting southeast Idlib hard as the offensive approaches. They've continued their missile and artillery strikes on Idlib, and they took a short hiatus to observe a silent ceasefire, but apparently that is now over. Led by the Tiger forces, the Syrian Arab army heavily targeted the fortifications of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham near the Abu Dahur military airport. And according to a report from the Tiger forces, their troops unleashed a flurry of missiles and artillery shells toward the HTS fortifications inside the towns of Kalakai and Kauai. So it's really on. There's no question. It's really, really on here. Meanwhile, an American battleship, the USS Bulkley, has reportedly entered the Mediterranean and is headed for Syria, equipped with over 50 Tomahawk missiles. And this deployment comes after previous reports of the attack submarine USS Newport News moving into the Mediterranean after the arrival of a U.S. Marine Corps small attack carrier full of F-35B stealth jets the USS Essex in the Middle East region as detailed by the military website, Task and Purpose. So they're just pouring in the hardware here. And apparently there is now a new carrier group on its way to the Mediterranean. So this may prompt the Russians to send more of their forces into the region as well. The Russian news agency Interfax says that right now American forces in the region have up to 200 Tomahawk cruise missiles available to strike Syria if ordered to do so. Actually, they've got more than that because Interfax is forgetting about that SSGN Arsenal ship. That's a converted Ohio-class SSBN, where in order to comply with nuclear weapon limitation treaty obligations, the Trident missiles were removed, and each of the Trident launch tubes now has an adapter in it that can handle 7 different Tomahawk missiles. And that one ship alone carries something like 190 launchable missiles, in addition to what's on the surface ships. So it's a massive, massive amount of force. A lot of money involved in all of this. But then you generous Americans, you've got plenty of money to spend on blowing up Syria for no real reason whatsoever. Apparently, in order to maintain the illusion that an attack on Idlib would be a humanitarian disaster, the Syrian rebels are preventing refugees from leaving Idlib. And some of the refugees who got out are saying the Syrian rebels, the US-backed jihadis, are stopping their families from fleeing the fighting. Now, Russia is trying to open 26 extra crossing points for the Syrian refugees to get out of Idlib, to try and get them on out. But the rebels are basically keeping them prisoners in their home, so that when they get killed, the U.S. corporate media can say, see, we told you civilians were going to be killed. Now, interestingly enough, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, nearly 250,000 refugees have now come back to Syria from abroad. And that's just since the beginning of the campaign for the return of refugees. A total of 1,400,000 Syrians have been able to return home. Now, that, of course, completely undermines the U.S. propaganda that the Syrians live in terror of Bashar al-Assad because he might gas them all or show up at their doorstep selling encyclopedias and vacuum cleaners or something like that. Obviously, these Syrians are not afraid of Bashar al-Assad. They're afraid of the Americans. They're definitely afraid of the Americans, but they're not afraid of Bashar al-Assad. Russia is now beefing up Syria's air defenses, and they're making a big noise about it. They want everybody to know that Syria's air defenses are being beefed up. Everybody's getting ready for a big fight, and it's mostly going to be between air defense systems and those Tomahawk cruise missiles. Over in Raqqa, yet more civilians killed in U.S. attacks have been unearthed. They were found earlier today, and the bodies were found in the rubbles of the Afiq Grand Mosque. In Raqqa, there is now a popular uprising against the U.S. occupation. Residents of Raqqa are staging rallies against the occupation of U.S. forces. This is a genuine grassroots revolt. They don't want the Americans there. And again, the U.S. has no legitimate reason to be there. There is no UN Security Council resolution authorizing the U.S. to be in Syria. There is no declaration of war by the Congress as required by the Constitution. But the U.S. has been in Syria trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad for 7 going on 8 years. And very obviously from the military buildup, they have no intention of leaving. Because if they were to leave, it would be seen as a defeat. And a defeat would completely derail the war agenda. And they're not done yet, not till they get Iran at least. Meanwhile, another large Turkish military convoy has entered the northwestern province of Idlib as the Syrian Arab Army's offensive approaches. And apparently, the Turkish convoy entered Idlib from the Hatay province in order to reinforce their observation posts near the Syrian army's front lines. Turkey is still a wild card in all of this. Speaking of Turkey, they now want to establish a naval base on Cyprus, which would be a serious problem because Cyprus is trying to reunify, particularly after the breakdown of the July 2017 peace talks, which were suspended when Turkey refused to relinquish its intervention rights on Cyprus or the presence of their troops on the island. Turkey maintains 30,000 soldiers stationed on Cyprus, the northern part of which it has illegally occupied since 1974. And if Greek-Turkish tensions escalate, the possibility of another ill-timed military provocation could escalate with them. Everybody's just ready to go to war. It's going to take just one spark, and it's all going to go on up here. Now, here's an interesting little situation. Apparently, over in Afghanistan, they have decided that maybe it's time for the U.S. to leave. Now, remember, the U.S. Combat mission in Afghanistan officially ended in 2014. But there was an agreement signed to allow the U.S. to remain in Afghanistan for security reasons. And ever since then, the Taliban has regained more and more control over Afghanistan. And now parliamentarians in the Afghani parliament, they're voting to revise the country's security agreement with the United States. And they're talking about revoking the U.S. invitation. So now Afghanistan is getting ready to officially say, Yankee, go home. Remember, not too long ago, Saudi Arabia, and by extension the United States, which provided the weaponry, suffered a huge black eye in world opinion by bombing a bus full of students in a marketplace, which was not a military target. Well, they've done it again, and ironically enough, on the same day the United States affirms it stands by the Saudis. And so the Saudi-U.S. coalition in Yemen has attacked another bus full of children and civilians in Yemen. And journalists on the ground confirmed a new airstrike resulting in mass civilian casualties, this in Hodeidah city, which appears about ready to fall to the Saudis, at which point they will shut down all humanitarian aid going into Yemen and impose mass starvation on the population, which, not that anybody really cares about it anymore, is a war crime under international law. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now from Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Question about Turkey's President Erdogan, that evidently he's either having his arm twisted or he's been promised something to go along with this official story of the phony gas attacks at the hands of Bashar al-Assad. Any idea what's going on there? Because I just saw an article today where he's supporting the United States and that willing to support the effort to go in to Syria to take out Bashar al-Assad. I'm just kind of curious what happened there.
Well, he may have been told that he's going to be allowed to keep the area that Turkey already occupied around Afrin.
Mike, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I mean,
okay.
Turkey went on in and they captured the area around Afrin. At first, they claimed it was just for temporary security. Now they've already placed Afrin under Turkish rule. They want to keep it, and that may have been the deal there. Go along with this attack on Idlib. Go along with the official story, and you'll be allowed to keep Afrin.
Okay, I was just curious. Because the United States their MO has always been buying a coalition to support the lie, and I just assumed they were either doing a little bit of arm twisting there, or they promised something in some kind of funding in order to get somebody to come along with official life. So I'm looking forward. I don't think, most people I assume won't buy this, but the mainstream media is certainly going to spin this as it's a true gas attack. And you make the perfect, case against Assad doing this. If he were going to use chemical weapons, he would surely use them on the enemy that's in his country he's trying to drive out, and not innocent women and children. This makes no sense, and I hope the majority of people can actually see this of being a real lie, because it doesn't make sense at all.
Well, I hope all of our listeners and all of our readers are making that point to everybody that they know. I mean, the targeting of innocent civilians and especially children is engineered to produce an emotional shock that overrides your natural skepticism. Anyway, Steve, if you have more, I need to keep you over this next commercial break. So hang on, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com, or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're still talking with Steve Elkins. And right now, I think it's very important that all of our listeners make a point of sharing this with everybody that they can. This idea that Assad is going to gas his own people makes zero sense at all because it gains him nothing. He doesn't need to use chemical weapons. He's all but won the war. And if he uses chemical weapons, he's being threatened with a strike by the United States, by France, by Great Britain. And so Assad basically has every reason to just not use chemical weapons, even if he had them. And remember, earlier on, he surrendered all of his chemical weapons under international supervision, and they were confirmed destroyed by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, by the Russian government, even by the U.S. government. The U.S. admitted the chemical weapons were destroyed, and now they're back there saying, oh, he's gassing his own people. It doesn't make sense. He doesn't have a motive. He doesn't have a reason to do this. You know, who's going to benefit if there's a chemical weapon attack? It's going to be the United States that wants a reason to go on in. Steve, you were going to say something.
Yeah, all excellent points. You've made all excellent points there. What I am now concerned is Nikki Haley speaking for the White House with attacking Russian forces that will attack will attack Al Qaeda. This is concerning here. We are. I don't know if this is a bluff or if they're really serious that they would actually try to. They would actually attack Russian forces. This is very serious stuff. To think that they might push us into an actual conflict war with Russia.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Because the problem with being at war with Russia, or for that matter, China. First of all, China will come in on the side of Russia. They've already made that abundantly clear. And the problem is at some point, one side is going to feel they're losing, and they're going to resort to the nuclear arsenal. That's basically inevitable at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think even maybe North Korea would probably side with China and Russia, because I think North Korea now is realizing the old double tongue from the United States, that they've promised this and this, and they're reneging on contracts and treaties. I think North Korea would also side with Russia and China, I would assume. But no, this could get really out of hand and ugly, and it really angers me because here we had a president here who wanted the job and talked about peace and commerce in the world and making friends and you know, not having enemies, and we're doing everything other than that. We are really pushing the world into a conflict and wars, and this has to stop. And I'm very disappointed in this president, and he will not get a second term. If he continues on this pathway, he will not get that second term.
I absolutely agree with you. The problem is, we've come to understand over the last several administrations, it doesn't matter who's sitting in the Oval Office. The war machine is calling the shots in this country. They've got control of the media. They've got control of the economy. We are a warrior nation. And we're living in a wartime economy. You can see it just walking down the street of your local town or city, and just look at the decayed state and the homeless and the hungry. The wealth of the nation right now is totally focused on inflicting war on the rest of the world.
Yeah, I agree. That's it for me, Mike. Appreciate it. Have a great show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. Now, Israel is now denying reports that it was selling its Iron Dome missile systems to Saudi Arabia. There had been an earlier report saying that Saudi Arabia was buying the Iron Dome in order to deploy it along the border with Yemen in response to Yemen missiles flying into Saudi Arabia and being a tremendous inconvenience. But Israel is now claiming, no, this did not happen, which doesn't mean it didn't happen. Israel is simply denying it. Okay. Apparently, Israel's military is sending reinforcements to a Palestinian village to begin its demolition. And this is over the Bedouin village of Khan al-Ahmar. This has been going back and forth for quite a long time. And Israel is saying the village is built illegally. It's not even really a village. It's a bunch of tents. They're living the Bedouin lifestyle. But the Palestinians are saying the demolition plan is part of Israel's forcible displacement policy to create more room for its illegal settlement construction activities in the occupied land. And yes, that's exactly what it is. And I'm not surprised, but disappointed that the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, is out there saying that, yeah, the settlements can stay. There's no reason for them to be removed just because they're illegal under international law and they're built on stolen land. I mean, how picky can you get? Okay, we're going to take another break for commercials here. We have a caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And this story just hit my desk from Ynet. Apparently, U.S. Marines, United States Marines, are now conducting military drills with the rebels in southern Syria. And according to this Colonel Mohanad al-Tala'a, commander of the Pentagon-backed Magawir al-Thawar group, the purpose of these exercises is to send a strong message to Russia, Syria, and Iran that if there are any more attacks on ISIS and al-Qaeda, it will involve conflict with the United States of America. This is getting really, really serious. All right, we're going to go back to the phones here. Dustin in New Jersey, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
But Mike, Trump is playing 66 double D chess. Isn't that what we kept hearing? Trump's got a... Trump sold us out, man, like a long time ago. You know, this guy ain't going to do crap for us. You know, look at what they did to the Bedouin. They moved them by a garbage dump, in the garbage dump. That's what they think of us, as garbage, Mike. Like,
yep.
The Israelis is not the only ones that think of us, the human race, as garbage. These people are all are exceptional. The small group of people I'm talking about, you know, in Washington and London and Paris, you know, we're all expendable and garbage. That's why they lie to us. Mike, Putin's not going to back down. I could just tell you that right now, because he didn't, when this whole thing started, and, you know, I said from the start he wasn't going to leave Tartus, he wasn't going to leave Syria. He ain't going anywhere.
No.
The Russians are not going anywhere. So if the U.S., Mike, I have to say the Russians should target, and then go ahead, start the war. We'll see if the U.S. backs down then. Because you know why? Because the U.S. is actually kind of trapped also now, because the Russians ain't going anywhere. And this is like, you know, this is a deadlock now. You know, but I'm saying, Mike, I think it's coming down to where the Russians are going to have to. They're not. The Russians are going to. They're going to take Idlib. I mean, it's just a fact. You know, and Turkey's playing a double game. You know, and he's not going to cross Putin. So there was a deal between Putin and Erdogan a while ago for Afrin also. But he's playing the double game, like with the Americans and stuff. But he's still buying the S-400, right?
Yes, he's still buying the S-400. I mean? Yeah. Erdogan is a wild card. There's no question about that. And you're absolutely right. Putin is not going to back down for two reasons. First of all, he's getting increasing pressure within his own government to stand up, and nobody says they want a war, but protecting Russia's interests. And Russia has a lot of interests in the Middle East, the same as many other countries. The second reason is that Russia, I think, has come to understand that the U.S. will not stop with Syria, that they're already making noises about continuing on into Iran, and appeasement will not work, delaying will not work. In fact, all delaying is going to do is allow the U.S. to get closer and closer to Russian territory, and I think Putin is probably realizing that if war with the United States is now inevitable, and it does seem so, better to start it in Syria, far away from Russia's territory, than fight in the suburbs of Moscow, which is what happened during World War II.
And the United States would use its proxy forces brought into the Caucasus, just like they would use the Uyghurs in China. That's why China and Russia is doing this big drill. If you've seen any of the footage, it's gigantic. 300,000 troops. It's a huge drill.
Yes.
Thousands and thousands of tanks. I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, Mike, this is inevitable, because it just seems like, you know what this also shows though, Mike? The empire is dead, because if we got to resort to doing this says we're in bigger trouble than they're actually going to tell us of not only the economy, of just the country as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, they're desperate. You know, they're pulling out all the stops now. And like I said, Russia shouldn't back down, and he's not going to, because you know what, Mike? Putin would look weak, and Russia would look weak in terms of their friends and allies. You know what I mean? So they're not going to back down.
No, I don't think they are. And I'm sure the thinking in Washington, D.C. is if they can get a really nasty war going, not one of these little, third world nation police actions, but a real major war going, that the American people are going to forget all about the corruption, and all about the high taxes, and all about the neglect of our own nation. We're going to salute the flag and, throw our money and our children into the designated battle zone, because that's what happened the last two times. But I don't think it's going to happen this time, because I think that there are too many Americans who understand these wars are all about greed and conquest. These are not good wars. They're not clean wars. We're coming to understand that we were lied to about the real reasons for both World War I and World War II, and certainly we're being lied to about the reasons for World War III.
And Mike, real quick, I told you yesterday, there was like this kid who was filmed in Idlib asking Donald Trump for help. The Russians and the Syrians are going to kill me. I want to see my 17th birthday. I'm 16 right now. And the same kid was caught filming himself in Ghouta.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's all
my
propaganda.
God.
It's all propaganda. It's all propaganda.
It's amazing how they can find somebody anywhere in the world for a couple dollars or whatever to pull out something like that, you know. All right, Mike, have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Keith in Montana. Aloha, Keith. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I got two things. One, Florence. I was watching Donald Trump out there tweeting about the assumed death tolls of what Florence might bring and what other hurricanes have brought under Obama. And I thought, this is really weird there, because under Obama and both Trump, their drone program has killed more women and children and men and listed them as collateral damage than anything else. Than what a natural event would do, And then this fact here about Syria there. Can you imagine that the mental psyche of the U.S. soldier that is now fighting on the side of Al-Qaeda and what that will do to them in the future?
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, these Marines who are now exercising, doing military exercises with these rebels in Syria, I'm sure they've got to be confused as all heck. Aren't these the guys we were told to hate? Aren't these the guys who knocked down the World Trade Towers? Aren't these the guys who were beheading people and, screaming death to America? And now I'm standing side by side with them, practicing on how to go up against Russia and Syria.
Right. And then the other thing is all these promotional videos of head chopping and stuff like that. I mean, to realize that now you are the barbarian.
Yes.
Because you're working right alongside of.
Well, I think a lot of military are already thinking that, even going back to the torture that was being used at Abu Ghraib.
Right. And then the article about American soldiers will die for Israel. I mean, for God's sakes, is this fighting for your freedoms?
No, it isn't. And unfortunately, that is a reality. A lot of these wars are involving Israel's enemies. Israel wants the large political players in the region smashed up and made weak. And they've already done it to Iraq. Iran is next in the crosshairs. And what I don't understand is why the government of Saudi Arabia doesn't realize that, even they're going along with all of this and they're helping the U.S. and Israel do this, doesn't mean they themselves will not be targeted somewhere down the road.
Right, and then that $1.3 billion, whatever it was, arms deal with Egypt now.
Yes.
I think the whole area. I know you don't ascribe to a higher power there, but I look at Luke 21:20 through 24, where it says, "When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its desolation is near." And I think all hell's going to break out over there. And I think from reading from all the stuff I've done about the Jews believe that their Messiah is coming and stuff like that, and this is why the call of bringing all the Jews to Israel. The fueling of the neo-Nazis by arming the Nazis up there in Ukraine, and then Israel gets out there and says all the Jews from Russia must come to Israel. All of Europe, where they constantly have the rabbis saying that Europe is too dangerous for the Jews, and of course we know who's all behind the immigration there, that this is going to be their so-called last stand, and they're going to create their own Messiah type thing.
Well, they've already been making a big deal of the birth of this red heifer, even though apparently it was achieved with a transplanted embryo. But that's supposed to be the sign. When the red heifer is born, the third temple will be built, and it's all going to start, coming apart. even though technically they've already had a third temple, and there have been several red heifers in the past that were born and proclaimed as signs that the Messiah was about to arrive. So they keep just running this stuff all over and over again. The 6 million number actually comes from a Jewish religious prediction that when 6 million Jews are sacrificed, they will get Israel and the Messiah will come, blah, 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 blah. They were using that 6 million number during World War I as well as World War II.
Right, and then I think on the latter part of this, and I'll let you go there, but I think this is all uniquely timed here with the massive financial collapses around the world.
Yeah, I think so, because I think when the massive financial collapses really start to hit home, people are going to start taking a much closer look at the banking system and how it was set up and who set it up. And that is probably going to provoke a backlash. So Israel's probably getting ready for that as well.
Yep. All right, well, I'll let you go, Mike. Thanks. Okay, best to your wife.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. I've been listening to your couple previous callers who kind of sort of hit on this a little bit. Certainly, it does seem like everybody's digging in and their heels and everything in the serious situation with the Idlib province. But, I was listening to Jeff Rentz the other night, and he brings up a good point, and your previous caller just mentioned Ukraine and Donetsk and Luhansk. When they say, if they wanted to fight against the Russians, the Iranians, and the Syrians in Syria, they could tell Poroshenko, give Poroshenko the go order to roll his armor and his mechanized infantry into Donetsk and Luhansk, and Russia would be stuck. Putin would be stuck with the decision of whether or not he was, who he was going to support, who he wasn't going to support. Could he be tied up in a two-front situation? It doesn't seem to me like any of the players really have enough conventional forces, either ground forces or armored divisions or anything like that, to successfully invade, and produce an on-the-ground victory, and which makes me afraid that things would go pretty quickly into a tac nuke or neutron tac nuke type situation. And and certainly Iran as a wild card. People forget that Iraq is roughly the size of California, and Iran is 3 times that size in terms of geography and ground to be covered and stuff like that. So the potentials here are just really off the hook, crazy and very, very dangerous.
Yeah, they really are off the hook, and I'm sure that the opening salvos of all of these wars are going to involve a lot of missiles and a lot of machinery, but ultimately to control the ground, you've got to send troops on in. And I just got an email here in response to Dustin's comment reminding us all that during World War II, the Russians put up 2 million forces on the Eastern Front. So they could mobilize a lot of people. And once you get into a world war, you're talking about a significant portion of the population winds up in uniform. All of the young people, and they're starting to have more talk about a draft here in the United States of America. So this thing really is getting very serious.
Right, and one thing about us, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And we're about to see, because of a hurricane, regional infrastructure gets badly hammered by a relatively, comparatively limited natural disaster event. Okay, it's going to take weeks to restore the electricity that's about to be knocked out and the clear the roads and the flooding and all that sort of thing from a hurricane that is regionally confined to a few states of the southeastern U.S.
Right.
In the event of a war, we could see our whole electrical and telecom infrastructure, compromised. So we really are living in a glass house.
We're very fragile. We as I keep saying, we lack the 4 M's to really engage in a war with a military peer. We lack the manufacturing, we lack the manpower, we lack the money, and we lack the moral rightness. And this is going to be a disaster. And I'm convinced that if this war really gets going, the United States ultimately is going to find itself on the losing side, and they will react by using the nuclear arsenal.
Right. And our carrier squadrons are sitting ducks in view of the modern weaponry. And so, when Americans see video of an aircraft carrier on fire or sinking or whatever, and we only have a few of our 12 or so squadrons or whatever out to sea at any given time. So Americans' overwhelming naval strategy through the aircraft carrier squadron is, its time is at an end. So we this idea of America being the only superpower, it would only be a matter of a few days before America ceased to be a superpower and would be a very struggling power in all of this. So,
yes.
Quite foolish. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. All right, Michael, thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we're going to switch over to Dan in Illinois. And Dan, I'm probably going to have to take you through this next commercial break.
Yeah, I had heard one of your callers bring up a military exercise China and Russia are doing.
Yes.
Now that is very, very costly. And look what we did. We canceled a military parade in Washington because it was going to cost $92,000.
Well, it wasn't really the cost. And by the way, the cost ballooned, as is always the case with anything involving the military of the U.S. government. But there was a political pushback as well. It's not really in keeping with the image of the United States as a global peacemaker, even though we know the opposite is the reality. So that was the real reason that parade was canceled. But you're right. We're really not ready to fight this war. Our stockpiles are drawn down, our machinery is worn out, our new weapons are junk. Anyway, we got to take a break for commercials. Dan, stay on the line, and I'm going to come right back to you.
All right.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
About 6 months ago, my wife bought Extendivite. She didn't tell me she was giving it to me. So after about 3 days, I said, maybe the weather's changed or something. I said, my legs feel really good. And she goes, well, I've been giving you this stuff, and it was the Extendivite. And you know that I'm about 75% better. I can actually climb stairs now, and I can get up out of chairs. I can even get down, and I have to work under a table or a computer table and work on a computer. I can actually get back up off the floor. You know what? It's an amazing product. I can't believe I didn't think anything short of having surgery was going to help.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
They're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. It makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, and we're talking with Dan in Illinois. And here's the situation as I see it. The United States has now been at war for 17 years in multiple countries. We've already heard they're starting to run out of munitions. In fact, for a while there, they were literally flying munitions out of right here in Hawaii to the Mideast to cover the shortages. So the stockpiles are drawn down. We know that the existing hardware has had 17 years of service. It's starting to wear out. We know that the new weapons that are coming online are hideously expensive, and they're prone to failure. Whether it's the Zumwalt class stealth destroyer, which isn't all that stealthy, by the way, drivetrain problems with that. The Freedom and Independence Littoral class warships had corrosion problems and drivetrain problems, and ultimately their modular armament system couldn't be made to work. That whole program is being scrapped and restarted. So huge amounts of money going in for very little bang for the buck, to put it delicately, because it's all about making the money. It's not about making working weapons. The population of the American nation is tired of war, and they don't see a reason to have any more of them. And from the various veterans that I have been talking to, the troops in the field are totally demoralized. They know that these wars are not right and just, that it's all about invasion and conquest. The U.S. is basically, the U.S. government is rising on a busted flush. And if it's one thing for them to go on in and smash up a country that isn't really able to defend itself, but going out against a military peer like Russia and China combined, that's not going to work.
Oh, no. And with that military exercise, it tells me they're ready to do anything at any cost. And I watched a lot of videos of this stuff going on over in Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff. It can take up to, these guys, the military is held back on what they can do. It's taking up to 10 to 15 minutes to get permission to fire on a target. And these guys are getting sick and tired of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they had to deal with that in Vietnam. And what's really amazing, of course, is supposedly there's all this interconnected computerized equipment that's supposed to make the decision-making much quicker. But yeah, if it takes 15 minutes to get permission to fire on a target, the target can leave the area very quickly, or they can be fired upon. I'm sure that there's a standing order, okay to fire if you're fired upon.
Well, no, I've even seen where you can see flashes coming from the ground, and you can see them clearly carrying RPGs and stuff like that, and they still have to get permission. And Russia went into Syria, and I'm sure they told us to Assad, we're going to bomb everything. We're going to do what we have to do. We're going to not ask permission for nothing. We're going to hit them hard. They'll think about it.
All right.
So that's what I think.
Well, Dan, I got to let you go. We got to take a station identification break. We got more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be back after these few words.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We're keeping watch on Florence, and it does look like it's going to be bad. A lot of heavy surf and storm surge. Again, I hope people... well, we know in South Carolina they evacuated the entire coastline. And... this is going to be a bad one. There's no two ways about it. All right, let's go back to the phones here, and we're going to start with Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I've been watching lately both, and I've been going over some of the things he's done and said over the last maybe 20 years or so. Okay, including the fact that he was part of PNIC, very much part of PNIC. I think this man is actually legally insane, and extremely dangerous, and yet he's advising Trump. I'm also concerned about Trump's mental health. Remember, he drinks something like 12 Diet Cokes a day, I believe, dozen Diet Cokes a day, and brags about it. That's got all kinds of aspartame in it, which is very dangerous and very serious, not good for overall health, let alone for brain function. So you've got this type of thing, and then you got somebody like a Nikki Haley, who I think is just basically stupid. He's also a bit evil, but she's actually stupid. So this really bothers me. I mean, where we're going. We can't even, like you're just talking about a hurricane. Fortunately, I don't know if I'm in range of this hurricane or not, because I'm in the mountains, about 300 miles from the coast. So it should be okay, except for a lot of rain. But you see all the problems handling a hurricane. Now, just imagine if we get even into a non-nuclear war, into a conventional war with Russia, and it's not like World War II where the Germans didn't have the planes, or the Japanese didn't have the planes to bomb us. They couldn't get across either the Pacific or Atlantic. Today, just using conventional weapons, one missile could take out a good portion of, like, say, downtown Manhattan. You talk about the World Trade Center. Figure the World Trade Center and then some. That's just one city. Okay, they could also do the same thing in Los Angeles, a bunch of other places. This is just using conventional weapons. How do these people think we're going to handle something like this? What do they think we're going to be able to do? I mean, and not to mention, we probably have just about a whole fleet, probably the sixth fleet sunk in the Mediterranean. How do the people think we're going to handle this, Mike? That's what I'm wondering. These people, like I said, I think these people are stupid.
I think the groupthink is that the U.S. has never lost a war, and we're not going to talk about Korea and Vietnam. And I think the assumption is going to be that Russia and China will back down rather than risk a nuclear war. But that is brinksmanship on a very dangerous situation. And I would like to point out that in point of fact, Japan did succeed in bombing the U.S. mainland with these balloon bombs. and they set a couple of forest fires up in Oregon. It wasn't really a major success, but they did figure out a way to get explosives to the U.S. mainland by being very clever. Meanwhile, the Germans' U-boats, this was kept very secret during the war itself, but German U-boats were just off the coast of the eastern seaboard, and they were sinking shipping right there in our own front yard. People who were down at the beaches, were actually able to see, the explosions and the sinkings, but it was all kept hush-hush.
But it wasn't anything like I said. They really didn't. It wasn't really a major threat to this country. But now with the missile systems of today of both the U.S. and Russia, forget about even China getting involved. Russia has the same submarines, if not better than ours. They could launch a lot of their missiles just from the submarine. You can bet that they're armed to that they've got all kinds of bases in Siberia aimed at the west coast of this country. And they could not to mention the damage they could do to Europe. And on top of that, and say, God forbid it does go nuclear, Putin at least has seen to it that his country has shelters to maybe to protect the Russian people. I don't think there's going to be much protection in the shelter because there's nothing to come out to. But at least he's got something. We don't even have that in this country, except for the rich and the so-called elites and the politicians. They've got the shelters. We've got Jack. So, I mean, this is basically what it's coming to. And like you said again, just in a ground war, I don't think our troops have the morale or the motivation. I know if I was still in the Army and I was told to fire on the Syrians now, and I was told I'd say, look, you just better arrest me and take me and put me in the stockade because I'm not, just lock me up because I'm not doing it. And I think a lot of troops have the same idea. They will have to have a draft too, because they don't have the amount of troops they need now. They don't. The troops they have, many of them have severe problems. They're starting to pick from the bottom of the barrel. I remember it wasn't a few months ago they were asking for permission to hire up people with mental problems for the military
and
plus,
past drug abuse issues. Yeah, they keep lowering the standards. The weight standards have been relaxed. They're accepting seriously overweight recruits right. with prior drug abuse history. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's not a very pretty picture there. And again, I understand they are talking about bringing back the draft. There's a big meeting coming up here in the next couple of weeks where they're going to talk about the draft policy, because are they going to extend draft registration? Are they going to end it? Or are they going to actually start using the draft? Now, the American people are not going to sit still for a draft unless there's another big false flag that gets everybody riled up and says, yes, we've got to fling our babies onto that enemy here.
I don't think I'll say buy a false flag anymore. I think people are smart enough. Very few people believe the government story about 9/11 anymore. Even though, of course, you watch the corporate media, they get all angry. I told you I called this guy the other day, David Webb, and said, do you think it's good that we're going to be the Air Force for Al Qaeda? And he got angry, he hung up the phone, and then made some comments offline. So I mean, but these are your typical neocon type of. They call themselves conservative. They're not really conservative, but I also don't call myself a conservative anymore either, because I don't want to be, hooked up with these neocons, and that's what basically they're all. The neocons have so badly taken over the Republican Party, and the so-called conservative movement, and have even taken control of part of the left, also of
yes.
the Democrats.
The neolibs.
This is a problem, man. We're facing a whole lot of problems. I have hope that Vladimir Putin understands a lot of this stuff, sees all the turmoil going on in this country, and sees that Trump isn't really in charge, and that he may show some restraint, because he's a pretty level-headed guy, and I really believe he really cares about this planet and not having this planet's destruction. And I just, that's about the only hope I think left right now. That's because I don't have any trust in our leaders. like I said, I think a lot of them are mentally ill. Some of them probably are those what is it, psychotropic drugs.
Oh, they've got their own pharmacy inside the Capitol building.
And Bolt is one of those. You just look at the guy. I mean, he just looks like somebody who just escaped from a mental institution. And the other fat slob there that they always brag about how brilliant he is, Pompeo.
Yes.
I have no faith in him. And Pence, I believe, in some ways, is engineering a lot of the stuff going on, the internal workings in the White House. Because Pence wants to become president, and he also wants the Armageddon that's going to come, and thinks that Jesus Christ is going to return and rule from Jerusalem. Except, of course, he's not explaining whether Jesus really wants to come back to Earth to rule over a planet of nuclear waste, because that's a very good possibility where it's going to go. But then, like I said, these people are mad. They're not all that much different. Some of them, like Pence and Pompeo, are not all that much different from the crazies in the Islamic, in Islamic culture. And I don't mean all Muslim. I'm talking about like the Wahhabi stuff, Saudi Arabia, the people we're actually helping now, and the ones that Assad is trying to clear out of the country. And this is another thing. This is absolute insanity that we would think of going to war to defend the very terrorists they tell us who are responsible for 9/11.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying, Mike. It's out and out insanity. Okay? It's not just evil. It's actually insane. These people are absolutely insane, and I don't know what we can do, we the people can do, to take this country back. It might be too late to do it, because once the bombs start flying, then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, this country is past saving. It's too much in the grip of private interests. It's too much in the grip of the military-industrial complex. And I'm afraid, despite my best efforts for the last quarter of a century, that we are, in fact, headed into World War III, and we're just going to have to do the best that we can. Now, I remember during the Cold War, there were bomb shelters, public bomb shelters. Remember Conelrad, and there were volunteers in every community that had the little shirt with the patch on it, and they were responsible for making sure that people knew where the bomb shelters were, and the bomb shelters were stocked with all kinds of food and water. The physical assets are, for the most part, still there, but there's nothing in them. The supplies that were in there rotted away years ago, and you're absolutely right. There's no provision made for the protection of the ordinary American population if there is, in fact, an attack on this country. And the government, they have their underground bunkers. They've been building them for going on 15 years now. The ultra-rich are building their bunkers. Apparently, New Zealand is doing a bang-up business in this regard. The rest of us, we're just going to be left to sit here and deal with the radiation. Anyway, we're going to let you go here, Mark. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network, and we're going to take another phone call from Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Michael. That was a long conversation, but I guess I shouldn't complain. I've had long ones, too. Hey, I wanted to just mention about the Trump trade and a few random things. The comments that Trump made that were inflammatory, that interfered with the Canada-U.S. NAFTA negotiations.
Yes.
One of the exact quotes from the Toronto Star is, quote, "Here's the problem. If I say no, the answer is no. And if I say no, then you're going to put that, and it's going to be so insulting, they're not going to be able to make a deal. I can't kill these people." So I want to give my interpretation on this one more time, now that that these comments are confirmed. What's going on is that Obama and Trump and the other presidents have been executing people all over the world with drone strikes. It's part of a daily routine, and it's part of the empire building. And what Trump was stupidly saying out loud is he was kind of almost nostalgically or lamenting the disappointment that he can't just kill Canadians, he actually has to negotiate with them. That's the way I interpret that. And then as I was writing that, make America regurgitate again kept coming to my mind. And it's kind of amusing that the word great is spelt out twice in the word regurgitate. That's probably why it kind of sticks in my head. And can I just move on quickly to a random thing?
Yeah, real quick, please.
Okay, Planned Parenthood means planning to not be a parent. And I saw a boy wearing a pink shirt in Whole Foods. He was like maybe 16. He's a boy wearing a pink shirt, and it says, "I'm a girl." And then it says Equality for Children, and then it says Planned Parenthood. So my interpretation on that is that if they can't abort you, they want you not to breed. And that's it.
Well, I think whether somebody thinks they're a boy or a girl is irrelevant to the fact that if they get together with a member of the opposite sex, that they will, in fact, have the potential to breed. But you're right. Planned Parenthood is all about population control, but it was originally set up to limit the black population. That's what it was targeted on. And everybody who's always talking about limiting the population, it's somebody else that they want to not have children, or somebody else that they want to die. And that's one of the problems I have with the population activists, is they're never willing to make those sacrifices for themselves. As far as, getting on back to Trump in Canada, it was incautious of him to have made those statements. And it does betray an arrogant, bullying attitude, which I think is inappropriate given the current economic weaknesses of the United States.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, thanks, Michael. Have a great show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open. Okay, now there's a story that came out of Zero Hedge. John Kerry accused of violating the Logan Act after he admits to secret Iran talks. Now, Kerry is making the rounds of the media, pushing his new book, Every Day is Extra. And basically, when he was doing one of these interviews, he disclosed that he met with Zarif 3 or 4 times and discussed political issues and challenges between the United States and Iran. And this article is saying it could constitute a significant and clear violation of the Logan Act. Actually, no. It is not a violation of the Logan Act to simply discuss politics and challenges. A violation of the Logan Act would be if Kerry actually engaged in shifting U.S. foreign policy with Iran. And I don't think it's crossed that line. So maybe this is just trying to draw more attention so that Kerry can sell more books. But having a conversation is not a violation of the Logan Act. Making deals, making promises, eliciting promises of a change in policy, that's a violation of the Logan Act. Okay, as you know, over in Great Britain, they are still trying to pound on this Sergei Skripal case, and they've been pushing these 2 Russian characters, Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Boshirov, as being Russian agents who poisoned the Skripals, because we photographed them in Salisbury, and that's the case here. Well, Russia Today had an interview with these 2 individuals who, of course, are saying, A, they're not Russian agents. They don't know who the Skripals are. They didn't go near their home. They were in Salisbury because they were tourists. And if you look on a map, you will realize Salisbury is right there next to Stonehenge. And when I worked briefly in London, I wanted to get to Stonehenge. I wasn't able to because of a lack of time. But apparently they were quite surprised by the accusations and their photos plastered all over the newspapers. Now remember, one of those images that was all over the newspaper came from a security camera that filmed them window shopping supposedly after the time of the attack. And that, to me, undermines the British claims here. Because if you're a Russian agent and you just daub poison on somebody's doorknob, you're going to want to clear data. You're going to want to get out of the area. You're not going to run and look suspicious, but you're not going to dawdle around looking through the window of a collectibles and rare stamp shop in the city and talk about buying collectible coins. Basically, that image supports their story that they're just there playing tourist, which a lot of people do. Now, Russia is calling on the United Nations Human Rights Council to put pressure on London to stop isolating Yulia Skripal, the daughter, because ever since this one very obvious stage-managed press interview that she gave for the British media, nobody can talk to her. Family is not being allowed to talk to her. Russian diplomats are not being allowed to talk to her, and that is a serious breach of diplomatic protocol because Yulia is in fact a Russian citizen, and under international law, Russian diplomats are supposed to be allowed to have contact with her. And Britain is refusing. They're keeping her in total isolation. Now, the fact that this latest Skripal story is already falling apart is not deterring the United States. They're going to impose additional, very severe sanctions on Russia over the Skripal case. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we were talking about the fact that even though there is still absolutely no proof that Russia had anything to do with what happened to Sergei Skripal, the U.S. is imposing a new round of sanctions on Russia, described as very severe, probably to be imposed right after the November midterm elections, unless Russia takes steps in the wake of the poisoning of their former Russian spy. What steps could Russia even begin to take? The whole thing is just made up out of thin air. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Jim in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. Very worried about this Syria situation.
Yes.
But I don't think Putin will start World War III just yet. I think, like the last two, I think he'll just take the hit. He'll back the Syrians when he can. May try to jam their signals, but I don't think he's going to start World War III. And, I was struck because a couple of years ago I saw Putin meeting with Netanyahu. They seem very, very friendly with each other. And it's just a thought. Maybe they have some sort of deal. And,
well, if they did back then, it sort of fell apart because remember when Netanyahu went to Moscow for a meeting with Putin, and then the next day Netanyahu sort of tried to insert himself next to Putin during this this parade, and you could see the look on Putin's face. He was not at all happy about that. And Putin, in fact, went over and he found this veteran standing by the side of the road, in full uniform and medals and everything, and invited him to stand next to Putin for the remainder of the parade. And from the body language, it was very obvious that whatever meeting Putin and Netanyahu had was very contentious, and Putin was not at all pleased with it, nor was he pleased with Netanyahu trying to steal some of the thunder of the parade. So I think the situation has changed. And I know that Putin would not start World War III intentionally. I think it's going to be started for him because the U.S. clearly is on this very belligerent, aggressive posture all over the globe. And at some point, Russia and China are going to realize they no longer have a choice because it's either try and confront the United States or just accept that the United States is going to, become the ruler of the world. And I don't think either China or Russia are comfortable with that.
Well, I'm actually a little disappointed with Putin. He should have said, 6 years ago, he should have made a treaty with Syria saying any attack on Syria would be considered an attack on Russia. And then maybe the U.S. and all of them else would have backed off. Now, I can see that he's strung it. It's been strung out for 7 years. But look what good it did. It saved us 6 years, but we're still in the same situation. Just a thought. But, your best caller is Mark from North Carolina. You should have him as a guest, like you did with Layla.
Okay.
Another great caller. He's a terrific. Your callers are really, some of them, like Mark in North Carolina and Layla, they're just fantastic. They make your show much better.
We have a very intelligent audience. Very, very akamai, as we say here in Hawaii.
Oh, they're terrific. But thank you, and let's pray for no war in Syria. I'm very worried.
Yeah, I'm very concerned. It's like this thing could really crank up at any time. All right, we're going to switch over now to George in Texas. And George, I'm going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Well, I kind of see watching the Weather Channel, Hurricane Florence is downgraded to a Category 2 at 100 miles an hour, which I kind of think is going to happen when it hits land. Is going to be downgraded to a Category 1, and it's just going to race right inland. That's my take on it.
Yeah, that's what they're forecasting. It's going to be a Cat 1 by the time the center of the storm makes landfall, but it's still a major, major storm.
Well, it's still a rainmaker, and right now in Texas, we're not facing a tropical storm or hurricane, but we're facing a low pressure system that could be a rainmaker.
It's not just the rain, and there's still some wind. Let's not kid ourselves. There's still some wind, but it's also going to be that storm surge, because that low pressure system literally sucks up the ocean underneath it and brings it on shore. And you're getting the wind-driven waves, and there's going to be some serious flooding along the coast.
Well, the thing is, also talking about Russia, I'm sitting there calling the White House constantly saying, leave Syria alone. They haven't attacked us. They haven't threatened us. And even Iran, they haven't attacked us. They haven't threatened us. But they're and the thing is, it's like Netanyahu, I think is the most visited head of state to Washington. And I think it's because when Trump goes out the reservation, here comes Netanyahu racing to the White House.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, George, I got to put you on hold. We got to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221, or go to the website angioprim.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with George in Texas. And George, can you just sort of pick up from where you left off?
You know, like I say, Netanyahu, he has more visits to the White House. And I don't really think it's because he really likes Donald Trump. I think he goes there trying to put Donald Trump back on the reservation. You know,
there's no question about
Israel.
that. There's no question about that. Now, you do understand that the Netanyahu and Trump families have been friends, going back at least a generation. But I'm sure you're absolutely right that Netanyahu goes to Washington, D.C. to basically lay down the law.
Well, I didn't vote for Netanyahu for president.
Neither did I.
And you know, the thing is, I'm pro-Israel. I'm just anti-Netanyahu. And the thing is, I'm hearing Mike Pence and all these people going against The Hague because of war crimes, because I really think a lot of these neocons will be visiting The Hague.
They should be in The Hague. The United States government has been committing war crimes and atrocities in these various war zones. And yeah, they should be going to The Hague. And I think the fact that you've got John Bolton out there screaming that the ICC is dead and we're going to protect our people, basically is telegraphing the fact that the U.S. government knows war crimes have been committed, and they know more war crimes are going to be committed, and they don't want to be held to account for it. But if they lose this coming war, I guarantee you they will.
But you know, the thing is, my oldest son got his learner's permit to learn how to drive in Texas. Guess what? They automatically registered him for selective service without our knowledge or consent. And the thing is, and my son is autistic, so I'm going to a doctor and try to get a notice, some document saying it wouldn't be good for barring him from military service. I don't want him.
I imagine if he's autistic that he would be rejected anyway, but right now it is the law in the United States that all young people have to be registered for selective service. The names are already in the computers. The instant, go ahead.
It's an executive order. It's not a law. Nixon signed it into law.
Well, however it is, I mean, it is now mandatory for all young people to register for selective service, so their names are already in the computer. As soon as somebody says there's a draft, those letters are going to start going on out, the very next day.
I remember watching on TV when I was real young, people burning their draft cards in the post office parking lot. You remember them days?
I remember those days. I remember, going to anti-Vietnam protests. I even wound up going to the one the FBI staged at Disneyland to try and discredit the whole movement. I was very fortunate, though, because I had an occupational deferment at the time and didn't have to worry about going myself. But a lot of my friends got sent to Vietnam, and not all of them came back.
Oh. And I just got one more thing before I sign off on the phone, and that is, if people are worried, you got this woman, Omarosa, saying Russia interfered with the election, knowing it's not. You want to know who's interfering our election? And it's not, and I hear reports on Spanish-speaking TV and radio, and that is Mexico. And I really think we need to start putting Mexico in its place, not to meddle in our elections.
Well, I would see how the vast number of illegal immigrants voting in our elections might be seen as meddling, but that's not the fault of the government of Mexico. It's the fault of the Democrats and the open border activists.
I think they ought to be brought before a tribunal.
Well, I think if we're going to talk about foreign meddling in our internal affairs and politics, I think Israel has to be at the top of that list.
Exactly. But anyway, Mike, have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open. We were talking about Russia and Great Britain and the Skripal case. And apparently a lot of people are realizing that Russia is being treated rather unfairly. And over in Great Britain, there's a group that has gotten together. They call themselves the Westminster Russia Forum. And they are in favor of promoting British-Russian bilateral ties. And they have launched a campaign countering the anti-Russian sentiment, countering the negative propaganda to try and say, look, we need to be a little bit more objective and balanced in how we're treating these other countries. So ordinary people realize that all this Russia bashing, it is just propaganda and nonsense. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones here. Steve Elkins called back in. And Steve, what's on your mind?
Well, you want to find out how good the borders can be monitored and policed, just initiate a new draft. I guarantee you they'll really tighten those borders up really good, who gets out between Canada and also Mexico. So we know that they can monitor those borders, but if you start the draft again, and they're going to make sure they don't make that same mistake twice. They're going to monitor and police those borders really, really close, make sure you can't get out.
Well, I wish they would monitor the Mexican border, but the reality is, for all the news coverage that people who escaped the U.S. to evade the draft, it was actually not that many people, not compared to the total number of forces that were sent to Vietnam. But it did make news because it was the activation of the draft that woke the American population up and said, what are we doing over there in Southeast Asia anyway? And just fuel that whole anti-war movement, which the FBI tried to derail it and disrupt it through Operation COINTELPRO. But ultimately it reached a point where there were 1 million Americans standing on that mall in Washington, D.C. And Lyndon Johnson, in his biography, wrote that when he looked out the White House window and he saw that, that's the day he knew that the U.S. was going to lose in Vietnam.
I have to say that I think a lot of these kids, this generation, would not be eligible because they don't meet the physical requirements. This is an out-of-shape generation here. This is the Twinkie generation. They're in pretty bad shape. I can't imagine them being in military uniform and being able to perform the duties they should be doing. They're couch warriors, whatever. They're little playing video. Very athletic at all, most of these kids.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And again, when I was growing up, and maybe it's because I was in farming country, we spent our days, running around the woods and climbing trees and doing all kinds of stuff like that. And today's generation, they're stuck in their video games. But again, the Pentagon policy is to rely more and more on the mechanization of war and the computerization of war. You don't have to be physically fit to do that. I mean, to fly a real airplane, yeah, you've got to, be muscular and you've got to have a good circulatory system. But if you're remote flying a drone from inside an air-conditioned trailer on the ground, as long as you can handle the controls, that's the only requirement.
Yeah, I agree. I think you and I had the same mom. I couldn't go inside unless it was raining. Other than that, I was outside pretty much all day.
Yeah, then of course you had all the chores that had to be done around the farm.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Hey, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. Now, referencing the poor quality of America's weapons yet again, apparently it turns out there is now a problem with the AH-64E Apache attack helicopters. And apparently there is some kind of a design flaw where there is a component called the strap pack nuts on the rotors, and they're wearing out faster than normal. It's being blamed on bad weather and salt in coastal areas, which can be an issue, certainly an issue here in Hawaii, but they're having to basically start replacing all of those. So these weapons are very expensive to buy, but more importantly, they're expensive to maintain. And when it comes to a war, the country that runs out of money first loses. And again, take a look at Germany in the closing months of World War II. They were throwing everything into their war effort. They literally strip-mined their own country for anything of value, anything that could be used in the war. And by the time Germany collapsed, there was nothing left. No food, no industry, no medications. That's why the typhus outbreak that they brought back from the Soviet Union just leapt completely out of control. The only thing they had to fight it with was Zyklon B, which was an insecticide that was designed to kill the ticks that spread typhus from person to person. Getting into our domestic politics here, the latest text messages that have been released between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are painting a picture of government agencies that leak worse than your kitchen colander. And they were leaking like mad. They were coordinating their leaks, trying to get stuff out there to the media to harm the Trump administration. And it shows that the collusion between the FBI and the Department of Justice and the corporate media went far deeper than previously known. And apparently one of the text messages from December of 2016, after Trump had won, it discusses a political leaking operation in which others were leaking like mad amid the Trump-Russia probe. Now, another message has come on out where this is a message from Strzok to Page on how the Times was angry about the Washington Post scoop. Apparently, all of these different corporate media outlets are lining up for these leaks. They know the leaks are going to be happening, and they were arguing over who got the leak first. But the text messages suggest that Strzok, along with his lover, Lisa Page, had been in contact with reporters from both newspapers. And Strzok specifically mentions two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times writer Michael Schmidt in his text message to Page. Now, Joe DiGenova, and this is a YouTube video, it's on the front page of whatreallyhappened.com. Apparently, Rod Rosenstein is currently under investigation for lying to the FISA court. And I'm sure they're going to stall it and stall it and stall it. And what you need to understand is the Democrats' strategy is to retake the House of Representatives in November by hook or by crook, mostly by crook, by illegal immigrants voting, things like that. And then once they retake the House, then Democrats get the chairmanship of all those House committees, and they can shut down all these investigations. Just make them go away. That's what they're trying to do. And that's why you're seeing all this stalling coming from the Department of Justice and the FBI and all these other government agencies. They're playing for time. They're trying to run out the clock. They're absolutely convinced the Democrats will take the House of Representatives in November and get them off the hook. Of course, they were also confident Hillary was going to win in 2016. And there may be an upset to the Democrats' plans. But again, I'm finding it amazing. Trump has to know that the illegal immigrant vote could cost him the Congress in November, at which point the House of Representatives will move to impeach him. On whatever flimsy pretext, it doesn't really matter. And Trump will stay in office, probably, because the Senate won't move to remove him. But the Democrats are going to campaign on the fact that he got impeached going into 2020, along with other Republican challengers here. Now, Hillary Clinton went on a 6-tweet tirade against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, basically based on this story that Kavanaugh referred to birth control pills as abortion-inducing drugs. And Hillary went on out there saying, I want to be sure we're all clear about something Brett Kavanaugh said in his confirmation hearings last week. He referred to birth control pills as abortion-inducing drugs. That set off a lot of alarm bells for me, and it should for you too. And just went on this continuing screed, basically portraying Kavanaugh as a threat to safe and legal abortion, and now he's a threat to birth control as well. Except that Kavanaugh never actually said that during his confirmation hearings. It's another lie. It's absolutely another lie. Okay, apparently Donald Trump has issued an executive order on imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a United States election. And basically just goes on out there about the threat to national security and foreign policy of the United States. the vulnerability of the digital devices and internet-based communication has created vulnerabilities, blah, 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 blah. Now, my first question is, does this include Israel? Because when you're talking about foreign interference in the United States political system, Israel is right at the top of that list. Or is Trump setting up to throw yet more sanctions at Russia to goad them into war? Okay. We are continuing to see an increase in radical leftist violence against conservatives. Out in California, a gentleman named Farzad Fazeli was arrested for allegedly trying to stab a congressional candidate at a fair last Sunday. Now, the candidate was Republican Rudy Peters, who's challenging Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell in November. And fortunately, Peters was uninjured because the switchblade Farzad used malfunctioned. And so he's been arrested. And the attempted stabbing was preceded by Fazeli making disparaging remarks about the Republican Party. Meanwhile, over in Washington, D.C., there was a Twitter screed threatening to collect bloodstained MAGA hats at a Trump hotel meetup. So that is very dangerous. The leftists, they don't have an argument. They don't have a platform. All they have are brown shirt tactics. Anyway, the guy who tried to stab the candidate out in California is already out on bail. He wanted to murder that candidate, but he's out on bail. That absolutely, it's a shock. It's a shame. It shouldn't happen. If it had been a Republican trying to murder a Democrat, you could bet that person would still be in prison. All right, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way. Can't draw no
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And once again, Hollywood is being co-opted to spread propaganda. And there is a new movie coming on out called Active Measures. And basically, it's an attempt to sell the idea that Donald Trump is a puppet of Vladimir Putin. In fact, the poster for the movie shows the bottom of the White House with the domes from St. Basil's on top of it. And they're just pushing this whole thing, that Trump is a puppet of Putin, which, if you look at the sanctions that Trump has just ordered, you have to understand that that's definitely not real. But that's the whole liberal argument against Trump. They're still pushing that Trump-Russia collusion, and they haven't been able to prove it in all of these months and all of that money. Meanwhile, we know that the Hillary Clinton campaign was colluding with Russia, trying to dig up dirt for that Christopher Steele dossier. And Hillary was certainly colluding with Russia over the Uranium One deal. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations has run out on that one, so she got away with it. All right, let's talk about the economy here. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have plunged 80% in value, making it worse than the burst of the dot-com bubble in the early days of the internet. And it just shows that the whole cryptocurrency interest, it was a massive speculative bubble. And a lot of people were urging caution, including yours truly, because there's nothing to anchor the value of a cryptocurrency to, other than what somebody else will pay for it. And when it first came on out, I said, I'm smelling tulips around this. Now, I like the idea of a decentralized peer-to-peer currency, but it's got to be anchored to a commodity of known fixed value, or things like this are going to happen. And a lot of people got hurt, and I'm sorry to have seen it happen. Meanwhile, over at Bayer, their stock has dropped by about 1/3 in the 3 months since it picked up Monsanto. And a big part of that probably has to do with that court decision out in California that ordered Monsanto to pay something like $200 million in punitive damages to this groundskeeper who got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from exposure to glyphosate. And that's also opened up the door to a whole bunch of other lawsuits for basically putting this very, very dangerous product on the market. Meanwhile, Tesla is in trouble. A longtime Tesla bull is now admitting the stock is no longer investable. They're in trouble with delivery of the cars. And Elon Musk has not exactly acquitted himself very well. That stunt on the radio show where he smoked a marijuana-laced cigar really rattled his board of directors. It may actually cost him some of his government security clearances that he needs to do his business. And there's already talk among the stockholders that the entire board of directors of Tesla including Elon Musk, need to be replaced. At this point, I'm beginning to think it's too late really to save that company, and that is a shame because I like the idea of the electric car. I do believe they're the wave of the future. The Teslas are very nice cars. The problem is, once they go out of warranty, you can't find anybody to fix them. Remember the other day we were talking about how repair has now become a monopoly. We'll be right back after station identification.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. It has been 10 years since the great meltdown of the mortgage-backed security fraud, the collapse of Lehman Brothers. And unfortunately, in the streets and alleyways of Wall Street, the crisis and the Great Recession are fading into history. And we've had a few short years of low default rates and good loan growth, which has recreated the same kind of atmosphere of irrational exuberance that will transform bankers into high wire risk takers. And so, once again, these money junkies have convinced themselves and others they're the masters of the universe, and they're starting to engage in the same risky behavior all over again. And why shouldn't they? They make a lot of money, and when it all comes apart, the losses are dumped on the American people, such as, TARP, various programs like that. One of the problems that the United States is facing right now are abandoned shopping malls, and there are quite a few of them. And because of the way they're built, especially with the big box stores, it's hard to repurpose these buildings for something else. And as more retail closures reduce the value of the shopping malls, it's harder and harder to find new investors to take them over. And so there's this article that's come on out basically saying the government may start buying up the dying malls. Now, I don't know what they plan on doing with them. Maybe they'll house the illegal immigrants and refugees in there. Maybe they'll tear them down for the land underneath, which is the real value of them. But I can't imagine the government will keep them up. And once a mall is abandoned and it's not being taken care of, you'd be amazed how quickly they just deteriorate and become an eyesore on the neighborhood. But there's an ugly, ugly reality that our money junkies and our government are still not willing to face up to. If you drive wages and salaries down to the point where people are barely able to pay their rent and barely able to eat, they're not going to have money to go to those shopping malls and buy the products that are in there. And that whole consumer portion of the economy is collapsing. And prior to 2008, 60% of the U.S. economy was consumer spending. and that's disappearing. And the abandoned malls are basically proof of that. Anyway, right now the wealth inequality in this country is really out of control here. Corporate CEOs, on average, make 312 times more money than their own employees. It wasn't always that way. Back in the 1960s, it was maybe 15 to 20 times. But they've gotten greedy over time, and again, this is part of the problem. The CEOs are taking so much money out of their own corporations, they're having to underpay their employees, which means the employees cannot buy the products at the stores or online. They're just not thinking very clearly or practically. I guess when you're a money junkie, you can't think clearly. Like any other addict, all you see is your next fix. Over in Europe, the European Union has just voted to remove Hungary's voting rights in the European Parliament, basically citing Article 7. And this Article 7 is part of the Treaty on the European Union, which serves as its equivalent of a constitution. And basically, it's a mechanism for punishing any of the member states that pose a clear risk of a serious breach of the, quote, values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities. At issue here, of course, is that Orban wants to basically keep the refugees out of Hungary. Now, Article 7 doesn't specifically mention the open borders issue or the refugees, but every time somebody talks about the refugee problem is a problem, they're usually attacked for not having respect for human dignity. And so that's the reason that they've come on out and stripped Hungary of their voting rights. And some people are saying that it's actually a form of blackmail, and that if Orban will simply open up Hungary's borders to the refugees, their voting rights will be restored. I have a hunch Orban is going to say no. Because if you really think about it, that European Parliament doesn't really have that much power and control. The real control is with the European Union Central Committee. They make all the laws and decisions. The Parliament can express the will of the member states of the EU, but it's not binding on the European Union Commission. Now, Italy is backing Orban. Italian member of the European Parliament, Mario Borghezio, gave his support to Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban during this whole debate over triggering Article 7. Down in Poland, their leader is saying that as far as he's concerned, the European Union is pretty much imaginary, and it's really lost all relevance for Poland and the Polish people. And Andrzej Duda is aligned with the ruling Law and Justice Party, which has been in conflict with the European Union over an overhaul of the Polish judicial system, which Brussels sees as violating the rule of law. So the EU is really starting to come apart, and a big part of what's going on here in Poland, they're deathly afraid of contracting the European Union's social diseases. Meaning that Poland is now concerned that they could lose their culture and their way of life to the influx of refugees here. Not too long ago in Germany, there was this 30-year-old killed by migrants, and his father, Carsten Hempel, attended a demonstration held in memory of this German man who was murdered. And he was invited to speak out about his son, at which point counter-protesters heckled him and called him a Nazi. You're a Nazi if you don't allow, floods of refugees into your country. And his son, Markus Hempel, was killed back in 2017 in Wittenberg after being beaten by 2 Syrian asylum seekers. And the asylum seekers were basically let go. The public prosecutor's office claimed that the Syrian had killed his son in self-defense and that the son had started the confrontation with racist, xenophobic rhetoric. Now, there's a new book over in Germany. It's highly critical of Islam. It is now the #1 best-selling nonfiction book. It's already sold 100,000 copies in less than 2 weeks. The book is titled Hostile Takeover: How Islam Impedes Progress and Threatens Society. And it was written from former Social Democrat politician and former member of the executive board of the Deutsche Bundesbank, Thilo Sarrazin. And Hostile Takeover now leads Der Spiegel's bestseller list for nonfiction. So people are definitely looking at that. Okay, we're going to take a phone call. We're going to go to Cameron in Great Britain. And aloha, Cameron. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Michael. Just a quick point about Hungary. I don't think actually that the refugees I mean, they're just basically using them as an excuse. If you remember, Hungary banned the Rothschild central bank back in March or April, and also issued an arrest warrant for Soros. So I think that is the main thing about this hostile act from EU against Hungary. And I mean, it's just going to grow. It's not just going to stop there, I think.
Well, I know that every time a country tries to break free of private central banking, bad things tend to happen to it. That certainly was the case with Iraq and Libya, was even the case with Germany going into World War II. So, yeah, you're right. That could very well be part of the motive.
It was actually the same with Russia as well. If you remember, back in 2011, Putin put heavy regulations on again, Rothschild Central Bank.
Yes.
Which overnight made him the bad guy.
Yes, that I remember.
That's all I have to say. Thanks ever so much for the show, Michael.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, prior to Putin taking control of Russia's central bank, everybody was buddy-buddy. We were all friends. We were doing business with each other. And then Putin takes control of Russia's central bank. It's still privately owned, but Putin took control of it in order to turn Russia's public currency into a public utility and stop it from being another get-rich-quick scam by the private central bankers. Okay, now the Dalai Lama has waded into this issue of the refugees in Europe, and he was at a press conference in Sweden, and he said, Europe belongs to the Europeans, and saying that the refugees have hid out from the wars, but the wars are starting to end, at least in Syria. We already know something like 1 million Syrian refugees have already returned. But he's saying, the Dalai Lama is saying, refugees should be repatriated so they can rebuild their homelands. And so, again, this open borders policy, more and more people are saying it's a bad idea. It's causing a lot of destruction. Now, you remember the murder of Molly Tibbetts? She was the student who went jogging and then just disappeared. They found her body in a cornfield in Brooklyn, Iowa, which you wouldn't think would be a hotbed of violent crime or immigration. But they caught this guy, Christian Bahana Rivera, 24-year-old from Mexico, in this country illegally. He's been charged with first-degree murder. He has been given $5,000 in taxpayer money for his defense. Now, I understand under our system that he is provided with a free attorney, but who authorized giving him $5,000 over and above that? Because that's not the way it's supposed to work. In Great Britain, Prime Minister Theresa May has hit out at Russia Today in a veiled attack on her opponents in Parliament. Basically talking about how many British members of parliament are being interviewed in Russia today. And apparently trying to make being interviewed on Russia Today suspicious in and of itself. Now, a former UK politician, Michael Gove, is saying that Theresa May is surrounded by people committed to remaining. They want to undo Brexit. They want to keep Great Britain glued to the European Union. That's what George Soros wants here. But the people of Great Britain have made their will known. Despite a huge amount of election fraud, Brexit won that vote. They won the referendum. And it's amazing to see all these people in Great Britain say, well, we should have another referendum. And we'll try harder to cheat this time. We're going to go on having elections until we get the result that we want. That's not democracy, by the way. That's sham elections. Apparently, there's a new Irish political party emerging in Ireland that's promoting leaving the European Union. And they've been inspired by the Brexit movement. Now, Theresa May has really messed up the whole Brexit process. And at the same time, this has exposed Europe for what it really is, a power and money grab that's been resentful of the British probably from inception. Since without Britain, Europe would be speaking French when they stopped Napoleon in Germany, when they stopped Germany. And without Britain, Europe might not exist as it does today. So then you have the Irish who saved civilization from for the barbarians who burned everything in Europe. And it's a bad translation here. But basically, this new Freedom Party, it's the Irexit Freedom Party. It launched in Dublin, and they want Ireland to take back control of their nation from Brussels. And the party is planning to run candidates in next year's European Parliament elections and the 2021 Irish general election. Meanwhile, the European Union itself is in mortal danger, according to the Budget Commissioner Gunther Oettinger, and has stated that member states are not complying with EU budget directives. And he's warning Italy they will suffer huge penalties if it does not comply. What we're looking at here is the occupation of Europe by the EU. They've conquered the continent with a sales pitch rather than with war. They've conquered Europe more thoroughly than either Napoleon or Hitler could have done. And that's exactly what it is. It's a conquest. All right, we're going to go to the phones now to John in Indiana. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for taking my call. I have a question. I'm confused about the midterms. I mean, the Democrats are still acting obnoxious, committing violence. You've got the walk-away movement, and yet there's still this talk of the blue wave and huge leads in the polls. What's really going on here?
They're going to try and steal it. The Democrats don't have a platform to run on. The public image of the Democrats has been destroyed by all these antics of the extreme left. So they're going to do what they did in 2016. They're going to rig the whole thing. We all saw how the DNC rigged the primaries to favor Hillary Clinton. We know that there was massive election fraud in the general election. Hillary was convinced she was going to get it. She didn't even have a concession speech ready to go. And I think that's what they're planning on for this November. And they're relying very heavily on getting illegal immigrants registered to vote, even though they are not supposed to vote. Because they know that the illegal immigrants are going to vote the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is promising all kinds of free stuff for them and promising to keep them in the country. Rather, because those evil, mean Republicans, they're going to tell you to go back home and come in through the legal immigration process. So they're basically giving away our country, which is not theirs to give, I might add, to basically get these votes.
You think all these antics will lead to civil war?
It could lead easily to violence in the streets. I'm not sure I'm ready to call it a civil war, but when you've got the left that's actively encouraging violence, yeah, we're going to see violence in the streets.
Wow. Such insanity.
It is.
Anyway, I appreciate your thoughts, and my best to you and Claire.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it absolutely is insane. It absolutely is insane. All righty. Now then, phone lines are open. Getting on back to Germany, apparently there was a bit of a squabble in the German Bundestag where one of the politicians addressed the Alternative for Germany leader, addressing him as bird poo, not exactly those words, and shouting that he belonged in a dung heap. Now, the audience was initially respectful when the co-leader of the Alternative for Germany party, Alexander Gulen, took to the podium. But things deteriorated, and the Interior Minister has called migration the mother of all problems, and they need to fight against the root causes of migration in Africa and Asia. Well, yeah, let's get the United States to stop the war. But you need to understand that a lot of this refugee travel was not in response to war. A lot of these people are economic refugees. They're being told that life is a lot better in Europe. There's all kinds of free stuff in Europe. And a lot of this is being promoted by these various non-governmental organizations funded by George Soros as part of his New World Order, let's blend everybody together, and then they're all hugging each other and singing Kumbaya program. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, distract yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha America, welcome back to our show. And there is a breaking story coming out of Massachusetts where in the cities of Lawrence and Andover, something has gone horribly wrong with the gas system, the natural gas going into homes. And apparently there are multiple gas ruptures and fires, at least 20 separate fires going on right now. 17 different locations, 50 fires in the 3 communities. They don't know what caused it, but the police are telling everybody that's in a home with gas service needs to leave right now. It sounds to me, and this is just a theory, but it sounds to me like somebody overpressured the system and cracked a lot of those little hoses that go from the gas pipe to the gas appliance. So this is a bad situation, and I've got family who lives in the area, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that situation as well. Okay, now getting on back to the other news. Over in San Francisco, there's a big stink going on because the Institute for Historical Review paid BART $6,400 to display an ad at 2 BART stations. And all the ad says is History Matters, and it provides the URL for their website. Now, the Institute for Historical Review is one of these organizations that questions certain aspects of the Orthodox story of World War II. So, of course, they're declared anti-Semites and Jew haters. They're on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list of extremists and supporting neo-Nazis and blah, 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 blah. So there's a huge stink going on about that. And remember, it is that fuss, that very strenuous effort against anybody questioning the Orthodox tale of the Holocaust that tells us there's something being hidden. You know, if somebody's out there saying they got taken for a ride in a flying saucer, they don't have their career ruined. Somebody claims to have seen Bigfoot and Elvis together. They don't have their careers destroyed. Only in this one area of historical inquiry is even the asking of a question treated like a crime against humanity. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Chris in Las Vegas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael.
Aloha.
On your gas pressure story that you were just mentioning in Michigan, you're generally correct, although generally what they have on those is Magna-Coal or a couple of other manufacturers' gas pressure regulators at each meter.
Yeah.
And if they seriously overpressure the gas supply from the mains feeding each one of those laterals to each home and business, it could reasonably explode or overpressure the diaphragm significantly and perhaps pass full gas pressure, causing it to permeate way outside the range of where pilots and things normally administer the gas, and that could cause houses to potentially blow up or catch fires in many cases. Of course, with electronic emissions, it may be reduced, but there should be quite a number of people that are still exposed to that. But more importantly, the reason I truly called was about your story regarding the abject corruption, the radicalization and rogue elements of these agencies that are supposed to be our wonderful institutions, the FBI, the Department of Justice, Department of National Intelligence, CIA, NSA, and all these others. It's my contention that during the Obama administration, they were all weaponized against we the people, and that truly they become hyper-partisan in their actions, as expressed through these text messages and so on and so forth, through these so-called leaders, Rod the Rat Rosenstein's, Strzok and Page and Comey and Lynch, and this whole entourage of Saul Alinsky-ites that had embedded themselves deeply within the administration, perhaps anxiously awaiting the transcendence of power from Obama to Hitlery. However, the Trump coming in, I think, was highly naive for a high-level executive to think that some of these people could change their loyalties to him because he had the POTUS hat on, as opposed to keeping in line with the criminals.
I absolutely agree. But it's been no secret that the intelligence agencies have always had their own political agendas. And even all the way back when the CIA was first being formed, Harry Truman said it's a double-edged sword. It's something that we need to have to deal with other countries, but at the same time, it presents a threat to the American way of life. And that certainly turned out to be true.
Well, you're absolutely right. In fact, Eustace Mullins, a pretty noted and diligent researcher, in one of his books, described the CIA as the communist installation of America, or infiltration of America. And I don't think that's far off base, considering who has been sitting at the helm of the CIA, going back to its very foundation, the Third Reich guys, and so on and so forth, and William Casey, who said that once everyone in America, what they believe is false, they will be ready for the plundering. I think that's where they think we are today, although this is the time of the Great Awakening, and the sleeping America has woken up last week, and I hope they rise up to...
Chris, I'm sorry. Chris, I'm going to have to let you go. We've got to take another break for commercials, but you're absolutely right. The Great Awakening is upon us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customer. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And apparently the clergy sex abuse scandal has now spread to West Virginia. I'm talking about that a little bit later in the show if we have time. And again, that situation in Massachusetts is still developing, but it sounds to me like somebody overpressured those feed lines, and it's 3 different towns now. Lawrence, Andover, and Lowell, and they're up near the border with New Hampshire. I used to live around that whole area. I've been to all these towns and everything. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones. Daniel in British Columbia, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
It was Putin. That's who it was.
What was Putin?
the gas.
Oh, the gas explosion. Yeah, you're right. Somebody's going to say it's a Russian
I'm not making
attack.
light of it. The reason I phoned, there's a member of the group Pussy Riot, and you'll remember those guys.
Uh-huh.
They were doing a striptease in a Russian church and got arrested numerous times. I mean, they're agents provocateurs. The latest thing is one of them claims he's poisoned. And this is the same guy that ran across the soccer field during the World Cup. And he was tweeting saying he was in critical condition and he thinks he was poisoned. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in critical condition, but I don't think you can tweet very much. So it's just another way to, and this is a Wall Street Journal article, and they're mentioning Skripal case, of course, and it just doesn't end. It's like we're living in this weird Twilight Zone thing, and we're supposed to buy all this stuff.
Well, you know the motto of the U.S. government: if at first you don't succeed, lie, lie again. That's they're just keeping it up. I mean, it's repetition over and over and over again until people say, it must be true. I've heard it so many times. And of course, that is a very, very faulty way to evaluate the truth or falsehood of a proposition here. But yeah, they're ramping up the propaganda like crazy. Somebody just sent me an article out of Breitbart, no less, saying that the UN war crimes investigators have uncovered more evidence that Syrian dictator Bashar Assad used chlorine gas weapons against civilians, blah, 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 blah. They're sort of pre-ramping, pre-selling this whole chemical weapons thing ahead of this supposed next false flag. And we all know what's coming. There's going to be a major, major battle inside Syria.
Yeah, getting rid of Syria's YouTube channel. I mean, that's pretty scary right there.
Yeah.
I like what Putin said about these. If he was going to poison somebody, first of all, you'd never know it was Russia, and they wouldn't have lived. These guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely true. And like these 2 guys, they're trying to claim were the assassins. I mean, if they were really Russian agents and assassins, they wouldn't have flown direct from Moscow to London. They would have gone by a circuitous route and come in from, a benign intermediate nation. These guys are just what they say they are. They're tourists. Let's go to London. Let's see Stonehenge. Let's go shopping in Salisbury.
Yeah, I think the fact that they came forward is just egg on the face of Theresa May and their whole operation there. I mean, she needs this thing just to survive. So
unfortunately,
another.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a caller on RBN this morning. His name is Steve from North Carolina, and he says he's legally blind, and he wasn't sure if he should. He doesn't have TV or radio, but he just gets his news from RBN pretty much, and he wasn't sure whether he should evacuate or not. And he's up in Chapel Hill. I don't know. He needs to get his next of kin notified where he is and stuff, and gets lots of water if he's going to ride it out, because this thing is going to be bad. I don't know.
Yeah, they're now saying that it's going to just basically stall over the coasts and just rain and wind and storm surge for like days on end.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's gone down to 100 miles an hour doesn't mean anything at all. It's going to be catastrophic. Places are going to basically flood that have not flooded in, recent history or recorded history.
Yep.
So I don't know if he's listening or if anyone, to get a chance to, stock up food and water, because I remember Katrina. I mean, this is going to dwarf Katrina, I have a feeling. So.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. Well, it's going to be a Cat 1 by the time the center of the storm makes landfall. It's going to be a bad one. It's certainly in the same class category as Katrina. It's too soon to say which one of them will be worse. The big issue is going to be there's going to be a lot of damage. It's going to be very expensive to recover from this. We're trying to see, is FEMA going to do a better job this time than they did in the aftermath of Katrina or not?
Yeah, and it's the aftermath is the problem. You get that water that's flooded with dead animals and feces and all kinds of gasoline floating.
Yes.
You don't want to be anywhere near it. And I just my heart goes out to these guys. They're tough. He's legally blind, this guy Steve, and he just sounded like he wasn't in the best position. So I hope he's all right. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go. I just got an update from a family member who lives in Massachusetts, and they're saying there are 39 known structures on fire with more expected. And this is confirming the pressure of the gas. They overpressured the line, and it's causing small fires in basements that are not seen until the inside is engulfed. Apparently, this is down in the basement. The gas company still does not have the pressure under control. Traffic gridlock. Trains have been stopped. Boy, it's a mess. I'm surprised it's not on TV yet. And all I can say is thank goodness they don't have the hurricane to deal with as well, because that's far south to that. All right, we're going to take another phone call here. Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. First thing, I'm surprised they don't have relief valves in the gas line to prevent overpressurization. But I guess this must be a real huge snafu for this kind of thing. I've never heard anything like it. 40 houses or more?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Something
anyway,
really bad happened.
The thing that I wanted to talk about Syria today was one. Donald Trump's always twittering. He's always making goofy comments and trolling and stirring things up.
Yeah.
But I've heard, Nikki Haley say stuff about Syria, and Bolton say he's really keeping his lips tight about Syria. And that, to me, is kind of interesting. Even with North Korea, Rocket Man and this and that, or my missiles are bigger than yours, you don't really hear him say anything. When was the last time you've heard him even say anything about Assad or Syria? I mean him personally.
It has been a while, actually. It has been a while.
And I find that kind of interesting in that it's out of character with him as far as his political personality. And I always try to look for things that aren't part of a pattern or are part of a pattern, and it's just striking. The other thing I wanted to comment about Syria was, it's kind of like, I wish Assad and the Russians would have just not attacked Idlib at this time. I know that it's his territory, he has every right to do it, but at the same time, we are risking World War III. We have neocons in power. The Israelis and the neocons are looking for a false flag. I just wish that they would have just surrounded Idlib, starved them out, maybe made some deals. I just don't understand, why is it so pressing for Assad and the Russians to take us to this risk of war?
Well, because these U.S.-backed forces inside Idlib are being reinforced and resupplied, and the longer that the situation is delayed, the more chance they have to build fortifications, booby traps, and things like that. These jihadis inside Idlib, they're not sitting still. And they've been offered a deal. Assad has offered an amnesty program, and a great number of them have, in fact, accepted the deal, which is to surrender their weapons and, say, I'm not part of ISIS or Al-Qaeda anymore, and they get to go home. But the situation is that the enemy in Idlib is using the opportunity to basically regroup and reform and strengthen themselves. And we know they're getting all kinds of supplies from Israel and the United States. So the longer Syria and Russia wait, the more difficult it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you're right about that, but just for me, like hoping there isn't a World War III, I wish they would delay it, you know, as far as giving them an excuse for us and the Israelis and the neocons to start World War III. Hey, well, I wanted to ask you, did you hear about that observatory in New Mexico?
Hang on. Before you go over to the next one, you need to understand the timeline is not under the control of either Syria or Russia. It's under the control of whoever's going to launch or has launched that false flag chemical weapon attack. Because then the U.S. is going to launch saying, we're justified, Assad is gassing his own people, Big Lie version 3.0. And it will be off and running. And at that point, Syria and Russia are going to be basically playing a defensive game.
Yeah, well, it can get out of control, and that's
yes, it can.
You know, and I hope that they're, like I said, I don't know if it's wise for this attack to be happening now. I wish they would have delayed it. I know the reasons, but I just. I think that right now things are pretty unstable in our country in particular, and I think that it's just bad timing, that's all. But the thing I wanted to ask you about it, did you hear about that observatory in New Mexico that the federal government raided?
I heard something about it. Somebody sent me the story there and how it's been shut down, but they weren't very clear on the reason why.
Well, they're not given a reason why, but it was shut down by the FBI, and it was an observatory for sunspots. And I don't know, it just seems odd why the FBI, and they shut the post office down there also. It's just an odd story, and it doesn't appear to be getting much media attention, and that's something I always look for also.
It is an odd story, but, you know, given how few sunspots there are on the sun right now, I imagine that there won't be much disruption to the work. So I haven't really paid that much attention to it. And I know the Nibiru Planet Xers are out there saying that the observatory saw Planet X and that's why it's being shut down. But again, those are part of the kookafiers that are trying to make the independent media look silly.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I personally, it's like I told my sister once when she said about conspiracy theories. I said, you know, you have to, why do you get so upset about them? Why can't you just entertain the proposition? Why does everybody get all wound up about it and passionate to the point of anger when you bring up things? My attitude is, well, throw it around, have a little fun with it. Or, you know, why so serious? You know, as a joker would say, you should be able to comment on anything and all right, it's ridiculous, but it's only the ones that have truth to them that really get passionate responses. Otherwise, it's like you were saying earlier. You know, if you bring up something that's ridiculous, nobody takes it seriously. Nobody gets offended. You don't lose your job for it. You don't get FBI infiltrated by it. Mm-hmm. You know, those are the signs that you're hitting a raw nerve, and it's probably the truth. But either way, like I said, I entertain the Nibiru thing just because I find it interesting. I mean, I don't think it's true, but why not pay attention to it and throw it around a little bit? It's kind of fun.
I mean, if there really were an alien object coming into our solar system, it would be I mean, do you know how many telescopes are out there on planet Earth? And I'm not talking about the observatories. I'm talking about amateur astronomers in their homes that have significant equipment. Everybody would see this thing. It wouldn't just be this one blurred photo with a lens flare in it that somebody says, oh, see, there's a quick glimpse of Planet X. Because, you know, if you look at how slow our known planets travel across the sky, the same thing would apply to a Planet X or a Nibiru. It's not going to move all that fast. It's not going to be that hard for somebody to get on out there and say, go to right ascension thus and declination thus, and you're going to see the thing.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you, but I do have a friend that's kind of into it. His attitude is, you'll get arrested. The media, the government will come and shut you down, and they throw you off. And that's how he would answer your your query there. He would say that, well, you say that, but, I know guys down in South America, and they started showing the pictures, and next thing you know, they're offline and they're arrested, and, so, that's just
like I said, all of this stuff is an attempt to make the internet and the independent media look silly, to try and lure our audience back to the corporate media, which, by the way, isn't working. Anyway, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go.
Thank you, Mike.
The phone lines are open again. Now, I'm very disappointed in this next part here. And apparently the Trump administration is imposing on campuses the new standard of the new definition of anti-Semitism that conflates criticism of Israel and Zionism with anti-Jewish bigotry. And apparently this was done without any public debate, without any congressional notification. Trump just called on over to the Department of Education and said, just issue this. And it's just a flat-out attempt to curb criticism of Israel on our college campuses. And that, I think, is so in the face of the First Amendment. That right there I would consider an impeachable offense. And apparently following on with this, again, this adoption of this ridiculous definition of anti-Semitism, which says that criticism of Israel's government is anti-Semitic. That's like saying criticism of the Nazis is anti-German. The U.S. Department of Education has reopened a 7-year-old complaint against Rutgers University, alleging Jewish students were subject to a hostile environment. They are such whiners. Okay. We've got way too many of these protected, favored groups here. And apparently there is this leftist student LGBT group that was literally saying that anybody who questions the transgenderism agenda needs to be sent to the gulags for 10 years for re-education. This is over at London's Goldsmiths University. It really is getting silly out there. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Final segment of our program today. And I've got a little clarification on this story about the Pussy Riot band member who has been sent to the hospital, and it's suspected he's poisoning. The tweets are not coming from him. They are coming from other members of the band. And in looking at the story as reported by CNN, they're, of course, tying it in with the Skripal case to imply that Putin is behind this as well. And again, look for what should be there and isn't. Why, at this particular stage of world history, would Putin do something like this? It doesn't get him anything. I think somebody may have poisoned this band member in order to blame Putin, to just keep on cranking up that anti-Russian propaganda. And it's all USDA choice bovine excrement. What is it with police shooting the wrong people? Apparently, down in Mississippi, police went to this house to execute an arrest warrant, and they wound up shooting the guy inside the house 4 times, once in the back of the head. They also shot his dog. The death was ruled a homicide, but neither of the police officers are going to be charged. By the way, they had the wrong house. The house they were supposed to go to serve the arrest warrant was across the street. It's amazing. This next story really bothers me. Apparently in Folsom, California, there was this father who built his kids a treehouse. Treehouse is very common. We had one when we lived in Southern California. But apparently the city is now saying he's got to tear it down. I mean, the neighbors were okay with it, but somebody reported it to the city, which says that they're violating code, something called the Accessory Structure Code. You know, it does seem to me that we have too many laws. And I know that the laws justify more government employees and more taxation and everything, but a treehouse, I mean, come on. That really is overreaching. Okay, over at Kellogg's, they have this one product called Cocoa Pops, which has a slogan on the box that says, "Loved by kids, approved by moms," which drew a complaint from a 10-year-old schoolgirl saying that "Loved by Moms" was sexist. And Kellogg's is saying, yes, they're going to change the slogan to "Approved by Parents." And again, this is somebody who's not offended. This is somebody looking for a victim to target with more of this liberal nonsense. By the way, if you have a Tesla and you just installed the latest software update, you need to be careful because apparently it's disabled the autopilot, and Tesla says they're going to have this thing fixed as soon as they can. And there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here and get something useful done with the rest of the day. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Take what you learn here, share it with everyone that you know. Email, face-to-face. Just stay away from the corporate social media. They're filtering everything these days. They don't want anybody to find out what's really going on. So we'll see you tomorrow. Aloha, America.